Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 209 of Album of the Day, in which for today's album review, I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from I believe she's a Georgia-based pop and R&B singer-songwriter who is known for her music being very conceptual and grand for some like modern alternative R&B kind of music, but she still managed to become really one of this generation's most sort of beloved pop stars right now. Of course, I'm talking about the singer known as Janelle Monae, who is finally back with her first studio album in over 5 years, since 2013's Electric Lady, released this year on April 27th. And the album is called Dirty Computer. As you can see, I own this on CD, this is by far probably one of the most influential albums of 2018. I mean, every critic adores this record right now, and I can totally see why. It's certainly, in my opinion, one of the best albums of the year, and also I think probably one of the best R&B records of this generation. I mean, this is certainly the record that we all needed in 2018 is right here on Dirty Computer. Really cool album cover right there. Certainly really nice. Here's the back. There's 14 songs on here, or 14 tracks I should say, 'cause some of them are interludes. But it clocks in at a total of 48 minutes, released on Atlantic Records as well as Janelle Monae's own label known as Wonderland. And these are just like liner notes, credits. The reason I just have it on CD right now is because there isn't a vinyl copy out of this album yet, unfortunately, but considering I love this album so much, you know, if only they would just put out a vinyl copy of this album, for crying out loud. Anyway, here's the CD. And that's the CD version of Dirty Computer, the new album from Janelle Monae. Now, this record, it is another concept album for Janelle Monae, but this time it's definitely Janelle at her most daring statement to date. I mean, this is Janelle Monae at her most personal and authentic self to date here on this album. Sort of addressing her different identities, such as like sexual, familial, and as well as her African American sort of identity as well. A record so personal that it may make some listeners, and actually including myself, a bit uncomfortable, because this is Janelle Monae really sort of taking more risks than ever before on this album. The opening track, which of course is the title track, Dirty Computer, isn't necessarily a song, but rather a really nice thesis statement for the album, sort of using this dirty computer metaphor for like her sort of, her identity, how she's a sort of likening herself to a computer that's, you know, not ready to be cleaned because, you know, she wants to kind of stay herself and doesn't need to be sterilized in any sort of way. I love the production on this track. I mean, it's kind of psychedelic and funky with the kind of watery guitars and keys, a kind of breezy drum machine in the background from that's produced by Soundwave, and to top it all off, we have the one and only Brian Wilson providing the gorgeous, laid-back Beach Boy harmonies over top of the track. And they just sound really nice over Janelle Monae's very expressive and sort of empathetic, as it's described in the liner notes, sort of delivery. And it transitions really well into the first real song of the record, Crazy Classic Wife, which starts out with this minister sort of reciting the iconic sort of line from, I believe, the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. And it's a really nice symbolism for kind of the album sort of being about how, we all should be treated equally, even despite our, sexual or racial differences. And lyrically, Janelle sort of has a true kind of sense of, optimism, even though, the world is sort of in a very kind of tumultuous state right now, she still, is willing to say things like, I am not America's nightmare, I am the American cool, and stuff like that, which are definitely statements enough to really leave an impression on you, because sure, it does have lyrics about, wanting to party and stuff like that, but, there really is a true sense of kind of authenticity that really makes this track also very personal, majority of the record. And love the production on this song. Some peppy synth leads on the track. Really cool, funky bass and guitars on the track too. It has one of the best hooks on the entire record as well. And then the song closes out with this very cool rap verse that really does show Janelle Monae's upped her skills as a rapper as well as a singer. So you could definitely put this album into the hip-hop category as well. It definitely has some pretty clever bars in there, including the one about running naked at the luau and stuff like that. As well as kind of referencing using the Rambo metaphor as sort of symbolism for kind of police brutality causing some pain to a lot of black people. And then she closes out the verse with a line of, all I ever felt was stressed out, kind of like my afro when it's pressed out. Pretty clever right there. And then it follows up with the song Take a Bite, which features this sort of, which also is definitely very much some psychedelic funk for sure. Features a really cool bass line from Thundercat on the track. And it features some kind of weird sort of guitar playing that really sounds somewhat St. Vincent inspired. There's a little bit of an indie pop sort of feel to this track that I really like. To this track, as well as the song does eventually close out with some kind of wild piano at the end, which I do really like. And also, Janelle's vocal performance on here, Just Take a Bite, is just so, hooky, and it's also kind of like honey in your ears. And it also just feels kind of soothing honey to your ears at the same time, too. Yeah, and lyrically, the song does sort of go into themes of sex and stuff like that, but then it also does have some really nice sort of backup info about, going to see her therapist, and the therapist telling her that, this person is, her magic son or whatever it is, and Brian Wilson shows up again, providing the kind of gospel-y harmonies at the end. And We also have a couple of interludes that tie the whole record together, Jane's Dream and Stevie's Dream. We have the 19-second Jane's Dream, which does consist of just a synth and simple guitar line, but it does sort of tie the whole record nicely. It still has a true sense of emotion to it, as it does sound very introspective, like as kind of a sign that she's feeling kind of a sense of loneliness somewhat. It's a really nice kind of somber kind of sequel to the previous track. And then later in the track listing we have Stevie's Dream, which is literally an interlude that features some spoken word from none other than the one, the only, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder, as you can see from the title. And I really like how he sort of says how, like, even when you're upset or feeling any sort of negativity, it's important to use words of love and stuff like that, or otherwise, you kind of, have some big problems. Anyway, back to more of the actual songs. I really like the song Screwed, which features Zoe Kravitz on it. Zoe Kravitz, it's one example of Janelle Monae just having fun, and it sort of shows how, even though this is a very kind of serious and this is definitely kind of a serious and a very important record for Janelle Monae, but I like how he's just willing to just kind of enjoy the ride that she's on, and the song I think is a perfect example of that. And Zoe Kravitz's vocal performance, I think, has that good sort of happy-go-lucky sort of vibe as well. Even though it does make some references to kind of, the nightmare that was the 2016 election, and how there was some kind of intense sort of pain that everyone has felt over it, but at the same time there's still kind of a sense of hope as well. While the bridge of everything is sex except sex, which is power, it may send a few eyes rolling, but personally I kind of look at that line as kind of Janelle sort of feeling proud of her sexuality, and she feels really kind of empowered as a woman. So it's definitely a little bit of a woman's empowerment anthem, the way Beyonce's 6-inch with The Weeknd was in 2016. 2016. The following track, Django Jane, however, is this edgy hip-hop number featuring these really cool sort of liquid guitars that really color the track nicely, as well as a really nice kind of steady beat over Janelle Monae's rapping. And let me tell you, Monae on this track, she dropped some bars on here that would even give Kendrick Lamar a run for his money. As the song has lyrical content. Sort of, she goes in depth about her family and kind of the job her mother used to have and stuff like that. And she really makes a commanding statement, trying to sort of tell everyone who is kind of feeling in pain currently. Sort of giving them a little motivational reminder that they were given life and birth and stuff like that. And here are a few of my favorite bars on here. I got away with murder, no scandal. Cue the violins and violas. And also the line of, and then she also drops in references to different things, including references to different things. One of my favorite bars on here is sassy, classy, cool it with the kale, as well as a reference to Transformers as well, pops into the track as well. I mean, it's definitely a banger. Definitely a banger, and this song is definitely probably one of my favorites of the year as well. Well, the next song, Pynk, is a collaboration with Grimes, who of course sings backup on the track, and and I like how, like, at first the song may seem like kind of a goofy kind of pop song, but like if you give it more and more listens, you'll realize there's plenty of intricacy and actually depth to this track too, this is a pretty daring statement because the word pink in the track is actually kind of symbolism for the vagina, and sort of women kind of having sort of appreciation for it and stuff like that. And stuff like that. And you can see there's some symbolic images in the music video for the sound in terms of like the costumes that the dancers are wearing of kind of that appreciation as well. And I definitely really like this track. I mean, that moment in the song where Janelle's voice and Grimes' off-kilter falsetto kind of bleed into one another in that chorus, it is just so heavenly. Heavenly, I can't help but just, like, want to dance to that, for sure. Sure, and heck, even the song's late 90s Aerosmith sample, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but it really works in that chorus. And I like how sexy the track is musically as well. I really like those kind of peppy background synths that sort of drive the song really well. It's definitely one of the standouts of the record. But then the next track, Make Me Feel, is probably in my top 5 singles of the year. That's just the way you make me feel. Oh, damn. Love this song. Definitely a little bit of a Prince influence going on the track as well. Which Prince actually does contribute to the writing credits of the song a little bit too. A little bit too, of course. I'm talking about the late great Prince, who unfortunately we all lost in 2016, but his music still is very influential to a lot of artists, Janelle Monae certainly being one of them. So like this song especially sounds very much inspired by that sort of thing, but it still feels very relevant and really fits in with 2018 pretty snugly, but I love the track. Killer beat on the track. It's so funky. Janelle's vocal performance on the song is awesome. Like, you really believe her when she sort of passionately says, "That's just the way you make me feel." The following track, I Got the Juice, has kind of a breezy Caribbean kind of flavor to it that I really like, and the song does feature Pharrell on the track. Does feature Pharrell on it doing the "Don't Think About It" hook, and stuff like that. And this song sort of makes some very subtle kind of references to at first when you listen to the song, you may think that the track is making subtle references to like urinating or peeing, something like that, but it's actually kind of metaphor for sort of kind of sharing each other's kind of sharing each other's kind of identities with their families and their friends and stuff like that, and it's definitely a true party of a track. And once again, Janelle comes through with some really good flow on her rapping. thing, and really bringing a kind of sassy attitude to the track as well. The hook on the song is amazing. I got the juice! Juice. And even Pharrell's rap verse on the track really, gives the song that extra little kind of sass that I do really like, and he really adds a lot to the song, I think. He adds a lot to the song, I think. Then the song I Like That is kind of a soulful little ballad following that up. And once again, another song where I think Janelle's singing on the track is just so, like, is so awe-inspiring. So awe-inspiring as this is another song where once again she's sort of feeling a true sense of confidence and pride in herself, even if other people are like trying to sort of, bring her down or something like that, which that symbolism can be heard in that in that little rapped bridge where she talks about, sitting next to someone that she thought was her friend, like, in school when she was a kid, like, in a math class, and she was sort of made fun of when she, like, took off her ring, and she was rated a 6 by this person, but sort of then saying with some passion, even then with the tears in my eyes, I knew I was in shit. Very true, Janelle. No. Then the song Don't Judge Me is this kind of intimate, kind of R&B sort of number that's punctuated beautifully by silky acoustic guitars and balmy strings. And balmy string arrangements, as well as some really interesting samples as well. I mean, I can hear actually the radio static noises from Radiohead's Climbing Up the Walls sampled on the track, which surprisingly really works in that chorus. And lyrically, this song is definitely a very in-depth sort of tale about one's own vulnerability over a person. Like, she's sort of becoming attracted to someone, but yet she's sort of worried that, he only loves her disguise and not really who she really is, and she's sort of worried that she's probably gonna, be judged or whatnot. So the chorus sort of is a little bit of a assurance to this person to just, let her be who she is. Yes, but then towards the end of the song, as it gets a little more quiet and she's basically whispering stuff like, "Come, let me kiss you right there," you can tell that she's sort of, kind of found, beauty in this encounter too. The song So Afraid is, however, sort of goes into something much more political lyrically, sort of reflecting on sort of her life from like when she used to live in Georgia and stuff like that, and how there used to be such beauty in life, but as the world is kind of going down a rabbit hole, she's sort of fearful that that sort of love that some people may have used to feel is kind of fading a little bit, and I do really like her vocal performance, like especially in that ending part where it really sounds like a true sense of catharsis for her. Even though I'd have to say this is probably my least favorite track on the record. I mean, the instrumental does sound pretty cool and cinematic, but I would say in comparison to some of the other tracks, it could use just a little more oomph. Maybe if there was like some actual drums that came into the song instead of basically just that minimal beat, I think the track would definitely have a nice little kind of structure. Instead it feels kind of somewhat, kind of fleshed out, but just needs that little extra kick. But then the closing track, Americans, I think is a really nice finish for the album. opens up with this gorgeous, like, sort of gospel choir sort of thing, which I'm pretty sure most of those voices I'm hearing on there are Janelle herself, with probably one other person in there. And the song is definitely the much needed kind of important finish for the album. I love the song's kind of up-tempo vibe. It's a vibe, some really nice kind of Nile Rodgers inspired guitar licks on the track. As the guitar licks on the track. The track, I love that kind, as well as that really nice sort of addictive synth hook on the track as well. Really nice backbeat on the track too. And the chorus on the track is definitely one of the most rewarding moments of 2018 right there. 18 right there. And lyrically, this is a song really also having a more kind of hopeful direction in comparison to the kind of somber, so afraid sort of hoping, crossing her heart and hoping to die with a big old piece of American pie, as she says in the song. And that same minister that you heard spoken word from on Crazy Classic Life shows up once again here on this track. But this time sort of hoping for, things to be, the way they should be, women getting equal pay for equal work, as well as black people coming home from a police stop without being, brutally killed and stuff like that, and sort of concluding with the fact that the devil is a liar because it's going to be my America before it's all over. Very true right there. Very true right there. So it's really nice symbolism for kind of this sense of optimism addressed in the song. It's definitely a very nice kind of resolution for this album. And I think it's kind of funny how the track closes out with her singing, "Please sign your name on the dotted line." Making this kind of a true sort of finish for this kind of essay she's essentially created. Yeah, not much complaints about this album. This album is very, very solid from front to back. Great production, great songwriting. The features really work well on here as well. Very intriguing concept. It's definitely a record that's not being conceptual just to be conceptual. There's certainly plenty of things to comprehend about this album that really make this one of 2018's most necessary albums, and it's certainly going to be a very legendary album for years to come. So, you know what I'm going to say about this album. Strong 9 out of 10 for this new Janelle Monae album, Dirty Computer. I'll see you for episode 210.